So, welcome to our top 3 puppy troubles. I love the word troubles because it's always a little bit of a challenge or troubles, not so much a problem because we can solve them. Number 1 topic, toilet training. So the first thing, guys, that I want to talk about is a little bit of, apparently I have to make this full screen. Sorry, guys. Just going to try and share that again. Oh, I don't know why it's not doing full screen. That's better. Okay. Thanks to my colleague Lindsay, she just told me to do full screen and not fiddle around with all my notes, so you probably don't want to see them. So talking about the toilet training. So there is a big part that is around the theory of toilet training, and that's quite significant once you understand how animals and humans learn. So R.J. Herrnstein in 1961, he defined something that we call the matching law. And the matching law is, it's basically a definition of that you can mathematically calculate pretty much the likelihood of a future behavior. So what he means is the more a behavior gets reinforced, meaning rewarded, the more likely that behavior is in future. So what it also implies is that behaviors that have a long reinforcement history, but also get repeated more often, become stronger. So basically what it means in an example, let's say if your puppy does about 10 pees a day, and I'm just picking an arbitrary number, and let's say 3 or 4 of them happen in your backyard, and the other 6 or 7 happen, maybe 2 of them in the puppy pee pad and the playpen, and the other 5 happen somewhere over in random places of the house. There might be like some consistency in those places. Then the likelihood that your puppy will pee or poo out, will pee outside in the backyard is pretty much 30%. So what we need to do for our puppies is to make sure that we help them to change this behavior. I'm really sorry, guys, but there is some ambient noise here. We just have some construction work going on, so I'm kind of hoping that will stop soon. Sorry about that. So what we want to do is we want to make sure that we start changing and shifting these behaviors from unwanted behaviors, which, in our case, around 70% or like 50% if you wanted, like this, including the one, just focusing on the ones that happen, the pees that happened around the house. So those 50%, we want to shift all of that over to 100% being pees, or nearly 100% being pees outside the house, in the backyard, or on walks. So to do that, we need to make sure we strengthen the desired behavior, which, peeing in the yard is, and we prevent the undesirable behavior from happening. Toilet training, or peeing and pooing, in first instance, is a self-rewarding behavior, which means if you need to go to the toilet, you feel better after you just did. So, and the same for puppies. So in the first instance, the reward comes as they have just done the pee. Regardless of you giving them a cookie or not, it is a self-rewarding behavior. So obviously you then rewarding your puppy for peeing or pooing outside. It's just sort of the additional, the reward on top. It's basically like a double win for the puppy. Oops. Yeah. So, a little bit more about the theory is also to consider how long your puppy can hold its pee and poo for. So generally, there's a rule of thumb. We say that puppy around about its age in months +1 is the amount of hours a puppy can hold. in general. So let's say your puppy is about 8 weeks, it can probably hold its pee for around 3 hours. But on top of that comes the need to pee when circumstances change, meaning you've just released your puppy from its crate or its playpen. Your puppy has just woken up from a snooze or a sleep. Puppy has just finished playing. Puppy has just eaten. Let's say you've just done some training with your puppy, or, you know, the kids are coming home from school and puppy gets a little bit excited. So there's all these things that you would add on top of this rule of thumb of 18 months plus 1 hour. Obviously, at night, we generally assume that our puppy can sleep through because they are resting, or like we hope they will sleep through because they are resting. So it's not abnormal for quite young puppies to be able to certainly sleep through for about, you know, 6 to 8 hours at a time. So there are things that we can do to assist with that sleeping through, but I'll get to that in a minute. Puppies may need to poop around 20 to 30 minutes after eating. It's a bit of a rule of thumb generally for dogs. What you find is with puppies, when they've eaten a meal, they often don't just need to do one poop. They quite often do one and then they do another one 10, 15, 20 minutes later. Some of them, they even do like 3 poops based on one meal. So, what we also need to do, guys, is we need to increase the ability of our puppy to hold. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about that later as well. But this is a little bit theory. So one is we really want to make sure we help our puppies to change the behavior. We start preventing unwanted behavior from happening, because any repetition of unwanted behavior is making that behavior stronger. And the other one is obviously we need to consider our puppy's ability to hold. What are the toilet do's that I always recommend in puppy school? So one is I want you guys to schedule regular toilet breaks in their daily schedule. So I have clients that, you know, use their phone. They might set an alarm for, let's say, they've just taken their puppy out and then they put the puppy back in the playpen. Or, you know, spend some time with the puppy, you know, let's say the puppy's lying on the bed next to their desk, then I'm setting an alarm for maybe in 2 hours again, just to take my puppy out again. I also want you to make sure to consider the toilet training as part of, you know, the daily routines. In a sense, when you wake up in the morning, you'll probably want to take out your puppy very first thing before you start making yourself a coffee. So you take the puppy out, and that would be absolutely a time for me where I would take my puppy into the backyard, and where there's a pretty good likelihood for my puppy to do a business actually in the space where I want it to do. Things like, you know, maybe changing my sleeping times for a little bit to accommodate my puppy's toilet training. Things like, you know, if you need to go to work at some point, you want to make sure that your puppy has eaten and toileted before you go to work, so that you make sure that, you know, when you leave the house, your puppy's bladder and bowel system are empty, so they are less likely to wee. But obviously, you know, keep in mind, puppies are very young and some can't hold for very long. When you're outside with your puppy and you want your puppy to pee, please stay outside with them. If you go inside, you may not know where they pee, if they pee, and also the ability to timely reward, meaning giving your puppy feedback within 3 seconds that they have done a great job. Scientists actually defined it's 3 seconds is still quite long, so the perfect timing is at around about 1.5 seconds. So when I reward them, what I often do is I have a box of treats near my back door that leads into our backyard. So I have a box of treats there, so I can just grab the box of treats, take my puppy out, and I have the treats with me immediately ready to reward my puppy. As my puppy toilets, I want to stay calm to not interrupt them. I might keep my puppy on leash if needed, just to make sure so they can't, they can't get too distracted. Same like with kids, imagine you're driving with them to Disneyland, and then, on the way there, they probably need to go to the toilet. And as soon as you get to the car park, they are so overwhelmed. There's so much going on that they probably totally forget that toileting was a priority at some point of the journey. One more thing that I wanted to say about the rewarding. So when your puppy does its pee, and when it's about to finish, you see them slightly lifting up their bum a little bit. That's when you say, good boy, good girl. And you get out the treaty from your pocket. You walk up to your puppy and you reward them immediately. What I sometimes see is that people wait for the puppy to run back to them, and then they bring out the reward. So the puppy might actually not know that they got rewarded for the peeing or pooing, and they might actually think they get rewarded for running to their owner. So we really want to make sure that we are very clear and with what we reward. So the more clarity we can bring, the faster we can toilet train our puppies. Dealing with accidents. Look, accidents will happen. I don't think I've ever met, maybe very, very few, met puppy owners that didn't have to deal with any accidents. So that is quite, it's very normal. Don't be upset about it. If you catch your puppy during an accident and during the act, then, stay calm and take your puppy outside to finish his business. Some puppies though might get a little bit startled if you approach them, let's say they are just doing their business and you want to grab them, they might get a little bit startled about it. So depending on the puppy, taking them outside to finish their business might be suitable or might not be. Often what you find is when you take them outside, maybe put a leash on them so that when they go outside, they probably won't immediately restart their toileting. So you probably have to walk them up and down a little bit to make sure, they restart their toileting process. If I have a very sensitive puppy, when I find them, let's say I catch them in the act, I'm just not going to say anything, and probably at that moment sort of hold myself a little bit accountable for, because either I haven't taken out my puppy in a timely manner, or I missed any signs my puppy has given me about needing to go to the toilet. Any accidents, cleaning up with appropriate cleaners that break down the enzymes and hence remove the odor smell stains. If we have these odor smell stains everywhere in the house, then pretty much wherever your puppy goes, it goes like, oh, there's a toilet, I might just go to the toilet. We find that things like white vinegar, tea tree oil, general household cleaners, they don't really do the job as well as the puppy toilet accident cleaner. So there's products like Urine Off that you can find in pet shops, and they are really, really good. Obviously also use playpens and crates to allow for unsupervised time. So guys, this is a very, 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 very big point of preventing unwanted behaviors from repeating or from happening. So we really want to make sure that we have our eyes on our puppy almost all the time, and if we can't, they are in a playpen or in a crate. What I often see happening is that let's say owner has taken the puppy out, puppy doesn't do a pee, they need to go inside because they got a meeting, or they just, they've just put something on the stove, and they bring the puppy inside, and they just turn around because they got a text message on the phone, they grab their phone, and that whole interruption takes about a minute or something, and they turn around and there the puppy has done an accident. And this happens more often than not. So this is why I really want you to make sure that if you cannot supervise your puppy with your full attention, then make sure they are contained in a place where they are allowed to pee, or like they have a pee pad or something, or they are in a crate where they are not peeing. Now let's talk about the don'ts of toilet training. There's also a few. So general headline is avoid lazy training. So we want to make sure we don't reward too late. Again, there's this 3-second rule. That's actually a 1.5 second rule, but 3 seconds is still pretty close. Don't get too excited while your puppy toilets. It will interrupt them. They will stop and they won't finish their pee. So wait until they are done and then say, good boy, good girl. Don't carry your puppy outside to the toilet. So we want to make sure that they can walk themselves. So we want them to know where the door to the outside is and not just being carried all the time. And we don't want to introduce doggy doors too early or give our puppy access to the entire house too early. Quite often the puppies get a lot of freedom, way too much freedom to roam around and hence make mistakes. They have no idea where the door to the outside is because they got the room of the whole house. What I find is with doggy doors, when they are introduced too early, especially at the point where the puppy is not 100% reliably toilet trained, they might learn to use that doggy door. But once you take them in an environment where there is no doggy door, they basically just pee somewhere, or they might pee in front of a door. But because that doggy door is not there, then I go like, well, I'm just going to pee somewhere. So with doggy doors, because they have constant access to it, they often don't necessarily learn to alert. And we kind of also miss learning about their alert behavior. So it's a bit of an education for owners as well as their puppies. Then another part of the don'ts is basically don't get angry when your puppy does an accident, or don't even yell at them. Or sometimes even when we see a puppy accident happening, we might go and be a bit loud, and that startles our puppies. So we really want to make sure that, when this happens, we stay quiet and calm. If our puppies get startled or afraid of us during their when they did an accident, there's a good likelihood that they will start hiding from us to toilet. So we won't even see what they are doing. So we won't even see when they do their business or their accident. So it will be, so they try to avoid us. A lot of times they don't necessarily learn that it's related to the location that they are peeing at. I hope that makes sense. So also things like, putting these old school techniques of putting the puppy's nose in their pee and things like this. Please don't do that. That is, it scares the poor puppies. Avoid general household cleaners, so we talked about that. And a very, very big point is don't stop toilet training too early. Generally, a rule that I like to give to my puppy clients is 4 consecutive weeks of no accident in any indoor location. After that, I would say my puppy is probably toilet trained. So, and this means no accident in any indoor location. I'm taking my puppy to different indoor locations, like, for example, friends' places. I take them to the office. I take them inside shops. So all of these things where I can then sort of prove my toilet training a bit. What I often find is that puppies, at some point, they seem to get it, and they sort of suddenly, like for a week, you haven't had any toilet accidents, and the owner goes, yay, that's amazing. My puppy is toilet trained. And we take all the training wheels away. We remove the Playpen, we remove all the treaties that they get and suddenly the puppy regresses, and they regress then quite significantly. And that is simply because they were just about to get it. They started to get a bit the idea. We remove all the rules, and then they go like, well, I guess not. So they kind of, so you want to make sure you have a really consistent results for 4 weeks and prove that toileting behavior in multiple locations before we really consider our puppy as toilet trained. So I think that's it about the toilet training now. What we're going to do, guys, is we're going to do a 1-minute break, and I'll let you enter your questions in the Q&As. And then we continue. Oh, sorry, I forgot something. Sorry about that, guys. Just notice playpen setup. Talking about the playpen, which is a very, very big part for me in toilet training. The playpen is a place that I almost call it my puppy's room, or my puppy's room with the courtyard. I like to put a crate in the playpen or attach the playpen to the crate. So I'm kind of creating the crate as this is the bedroom, and then I have a playpen sort of set up around it as like a little courtyard. In my crate or in the playpen, there's a bed there, nice comfortable bed for my puppy. There's a pee pad. The pee pad is usually set a little bit to the side, away from the door. What I sometimes see is when you put the pee pen, when you put the pee pen, when you put the pee pad right next to the door, then or right in front of the door, then that's the point where the puppy exits and enters the playpen most of the time, or where you lift them out from. So they have a tendency to walk to that point. So if the pee pad sits there, then they might actually walk through their pee or their poo. So you want to shift that pee pad a little bit to the side. Water obviously should be in there, can be removed at night. Kind of keep in mind, on very hot days, if you don't have an AC, you might want to keep the water in there at night. But otherwise, sometimes removing the water at night will help to get some consistency at night where the puppy actually learns to sleep through. So if they have access to water at night, they sometimes wake up, then they drink, and then, because they drink, they will need to pee. So kind of removing the water helps a little bit to get that sleeping through at night, which is probably a lot appreciated by most of you. And then in the playpen, I often have a couple of toys, not too many. Overall, the playpen for me is a place of calm, where I really want my puppy's arousal to bring down. It's like their bedroom, if that makes sense. So there's not much play, so it's a place of calm and quiet. Where do I set up the playpen? I put it generally in the family's common area. However, I try to find an area that is not too busy. So I like the puppies to be sort of in a space where some social activity of the family happens, because if they get constantly locked away, like for example, the playpen is set up in the laundry, then every time they see or they interact with their humans, it becomes a very hyper aroused interactions, because they don't really tend to spend calm time in the presence of their humans. So that is the reason why I like to set it up in a family common area. It shouldn't be too busy, so probably also don't want the place where the kids run up and down and everyone is going crazy. That's probably a little bit too busy for the puppies. A lot of times I find around the kitchen or dining area is quite often a suitable spot, but assess your own place and then make a good call on like where your best area would be, not too busy. And obviously I'll try to not move the playpen around much, if at all. I want my puppy to know where it is, so that at some point when I send my puppy to its playpen or to its crate, and my puppy knows where it is located. So, and I think that's it now for the toilet training.